What is up, friends and fans? Jake here, Tris here, and we were recently invited to a special Nintendo preview event for Splatoon 3. So we got hands-on with the demo, we tried out Hero Mode, we tried out Salmon Run, we tried out Turf War, and we got to talk to some Nintendo representatives about the game. So we are here today to tell you everything we learned and give you our general impressions of this preview. Tris, thanks for sitting down. First things first. Splatoon 3, did you have fun? What initial impressions?
Well, we have our initial, we attempted to record like a quick 60-second initial impressions from there in front of a Splatoon statue, and through masks, that's very difficult. It didn't go super well, to be honest.
We'll put it on the screen, though. You can see our sweaty faces, our gleeful excitement. I think that should provide some kind of enthusiasm. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
but anyways, yeah.
But now that it's been a few days, we had time to kind of sit on it all and take it all in. It was fun, honestly. Yeah. I had a good time with it. Cool. I'm someone that I don't want to say I'm picky with Splatoon, but I don't really like shooters that much in general as a genre. So usually Splatoon games, I've gotten each of them in the past, and I always play at least a little bit of it. But this is the game that so far, it's definitely starting to sell me more. It's definitely making me more interested from the get-go. I don't feel like I'll need friends to convince me to get it this time, which is actually a very exciting feeling now that we got to play around with it a bit.
Tris, you haven't said that to me yet, and I'm kind of surprised to hear it. So I want to circle back to that at the very end if I don't understand why you feel that way. But I think it would be helpful for everybody to kind of go through it the way that we went through it. So the first section that you and I both got to play was we got to try out the new campaign known as the Hero Mode. Fun fact, when you're in kid form versus squid form, Tris, we learned it's no longer squid form.
It's no longer squid form.
Squid form is canceled, okay? It is swim form, because you can be a squid or an octoling. So
I mean, of course, because saying kid form or octo form just doesn't it doesn't mesh as well.
I gotta tell you
as
though,
kid or squid.
But Tris,
but now kid or swim. There you go.
I'm like, see, that's the thing. I'm depressed about that because I'm a kid now. I'm a squid now. But
that song is gonna live on in our heads as long as we ever remember the IP Splatoon.
But yeah, so we got to try out the Hero Mode, and I felt it was extremely reminiscent of past Splatoon story modes. We didn't really get a lot of details about the actual story, the characters. We're really talking strictly about kind of the levels, the mechanics, the design, that sort of element. How did it hit you?
It definitely did feel a bit familiar to what we had with past games. But, and obviously to folks watching, we had the levels without context. We were not given the story, we were not given any cutscenes or any real, dialogue or anything. We were just given, play this level. Here you go. Check out the level design. There you go. And that's all we have on those. So perhaps in the context of this greater story, it adds something. But these are still your Splatoon single-player levels, even an Octo expansion, where you're tossing this level, it's floating out like a Mario Galaxy level in the middle of nowhere, little to no connection to the world you come from, and it's okay. Being 3 games in now, I can't say I really expected that to change, but I guess maybe because everything we played was also a very early game, clearly. None of the levels felt big challenging. None of them felt like I really had to sit there and really think about what to do. And I really do think that's because we played something from early in the game. So I'm hoping we get a good challenge from it as it goes on. The Octo expansion in 2 had some really fun, challenging levels and really good puzzles to solve. So I would love to see that brought here. But from what we actually got to play, outside of a level starting off kind of similarly to Octo expansion with the little thing to go through, it's not too different from the story mode from 1 and 2 in terms of its execution.
Sure.
So far, at least.
Sure. And I think they told us we were roughly 20 minutes into the game, so very beginning.
Yeah, very beginning.
And Yeah, the thing that stuck out to me was, it's funny, you made this comment like, oh, we're 3 games in, so really we kind of know what to expect. And I gotta tell you, I was maybe hoping for something a little different because we were 3 games in. And I did feel that the degree to which the game is obsessed with tutorializing is a little bit much for me at a game called Splatoon 3. I will say, though, that in our conversation with Nintendo, we were told that as the game goes on, it becomes less about learning the game and more about getting good. Which is an exciting promise, because I think sometimes when I'm facing those enemies, very familiar ones, kind of like docile grunts that run at you in Splatoon single player, that it's a little too target practice. It's a little too, you know, because the levels are disconnected from everything. I don't care to look around because we're in the void. You know, and so, yeah, so there's something that's a little bit lost for me about the, you know, I love the charm, the energy, the vibes of Splatoon. When you are in the town, when you're in the city, which we didn't get to see at all during this demo, but you know from Splatoon 1 and 2, it's like the culture, the beats, it's like, this is so cool.
There's a lot going on, usually.
Since Splatoon 1, I've been wanting to see that in the story modes, and I feel like I never quite have. So that is something that I think has continued to maybe cause me a little bit of disappointment in previewing. But what I will say is that I quite liked, there was one puzzle in particular that stood out to me in the level where it's kind of tutorializing the stringer weapon. And there's this enemy, and it's kind of turreted up, and it's got this gate in front of it. And what you need to do is hold down your stringer all the way, get a rocket on the wall behind them, and then the wall will drop down behind the wall and the enemy, and then explode, killing that enemy. And it's like, that was kind of sick. Like, that
was kind of cool.
That was kind of sick, mostly because I don't quite know if I really internalized that the stringer even did that had that little rocket thing. And it was a good tutorial because it made sure I remembered something that I otherwise didn't know about an in-depth element of that weapon. So I appreciated that. And I really like the stringer in general, but we can talk more about that later. Yeah.
No, that level stood out to me too, actually. That level definitely stuck out to me because it felt like it was more than just the tutorial for the tri-stringer.
It was a puzzle.
It was a puzzle in and of itself, which was nice. And that's a great way to do a tutorial, I think, because you could just pop up UI and, you know, pull this button or press this button to pull it back and make it work this way, and just kind of guide the player on how each button works and maybe a little bit of strategy. But this actually made you think and gave you a bit of a puzzle with it, which I think is nice.
Yeah.
It definitely felt like the first level where you use that weapon, which is okay. But I do find it interesting that you brought up the way the enemies there, like you have to get them from behind because of the shield. We learned, not that he's available in every level, but our little buddy, a little salmon buddy, we learned from our conversations with Nintendo that, sure, while you can throw Little Buddy around like, you know, like a little sub-weapon, and he can distract some enemies, and he can hit things from afar from you, he can also help you solve puzzles. And I've been thinking about this ever since that conversation. And the idea of, just imagine then the idea of you come across enemies, you know, like somewhere later in the game, for example, you come across enemies, they got the shields, you're using your tri-stringer, you could either hit the wall behind them to blow them up from behind, or, as we learned you could do from Nintendo, throw Little Buddy at the shielded enemies, and they're panicking because he's on them, and they start spinning around because they can't get him off. And then you hit them from behind as their backs to you. And I find that interesting, because that means there would be multiple ways to handle different confrontations. Yeah. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about Lil Buddy is that he functions like a sub-weapon, but he's like an interaction high sub-weapon. You throw him out, you call him back, and the way that it's not just a splotch of ink, he will interact with enemies, like you are saying. If you want to, I don't know if we have footage of it or not, but if you want to see what that kind of like him interacting with the enemies, jumping all over him looks like, it's like in Looney Tunes when characters fight and they're, you know, the cloud. It's kind of like that. That's how I like to think of it.
That is a great comparison, actually. Yeah. No, that is great. No, and that's actually something else. Like I know we'll talk about the tri-stringer in depth in a bit, but or like the weapons in depth, but specifically Little Buddy, I'm very curious to see what his application across the story mode is like.
Yeah.
Because what we got to actually try was very little with him. He wasn't even available on every level, which is why we compare him to a sub-weapon, because he's not always accessible.
Can I address that really quick?
But,
I just the little buddy not being in your journey the entire time. This might sound crazy to some people, but that really disappointed me. I thought, you know, we're an agent. We have our partner here. It's this funny little salmonid guy that's going on this journey with us. And the fact that, like, I get it. They tied him to the same button as the sub-weapon, which means if you want to do puzzles or you want to do other loadouts in the story mode, I guess you just have to do some levels without the little buddy. But I kind of wish, since I don't think we're gonna see the little buddy in multiplayer, why not just put him on another button? Why not just get him in there in a different way? Keep your sub weapons. Would it really have been that? Yeah, I don't know. Him not being in every level definitely makes you, as the player, just kind of not care about him as much.
He may be cute, but I wish he was there more.
Yeah, and he is cute. He's cute.
No, but I look forward to seeing how the application for him is done later in the game, as the key to solving puzzles. I really want to. I wish we got to experience that a little bit here, because I think every iteration of marketing for this game has involved the little buddy in some way, shape, or form, especially when they focus in on the story mode.
Right.
So I really wish we got to see a little more application of him in the story mode, in a story mode level.
Tris, I haven't seen this on. I don't think I've said this on any of our content yet, but I think Lil Buddy's gonna turn on us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think Lil Buddy
tragic.
has like Kirby Buddy energy, and like final boss turns into a Freako. Like, yeah, that's.
Get out of here, DJ Octavio. We've got Little Buddy all grown up.
Dude, Splinter Cell Lil Buddy is gonna go Hulk at like the 11th hour of this story mode. I swear. Just wanted to say that in some content, so it's in the books. Gosh. Any other takeaways from the hero mode? The little bit of the hero mode we played.
Unfortunately, not really, because I feel like we really did get to experience a ton of it.
Right.
I do want to take this little transition, unless you have more to say on it. I do want to take the transitionary time to actually bring up the tri-stringer, since we got to play a whole level dedicated to it.
Yeah, please. And the last thing I'll say about the hero mode is just in our conversation with Nintendo, you know, there was a little bit of this energy of like, you know, the hero mode is underappreciated Nintendo brilliance. And I have not had a great time in hero modes of past Splatoon games, and I'm giving this one a fair shot, Tris. And I want it to deliver, because it feels like the game is giving it more attention than they have in the past. It feels like they want it to be the three pillars: Salmon Run, Turf War, hero mode. And I got that sense more than I did in Splatoon 1, way more than I did in Splatoon 2. So I think Octo expansion might have been a big success for them, and maybe they learned some things. Very curious to see how it develops. I want to give it a fair shot, but cautious.
Right there with you.
Cautious.
Right there with you on that.
Yeah.
Like word for word.
Yeah.
Right there with you on that. Yeah. Absolutely. So
yeah, please.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the tri-stringer. Yeah. Basically one of the first weapons we saw for Splatoon 3, this bow and arrow that we've seen a lot of so far, but now that we actually got to try it, I'm really liking it, actually.
Yo.
I really like the amount of thought that has to go into every use of it. You know, when we were talking with Nintendo, you know, we were told, you know, oh, you know, it's very different than, like, just going in with your splatter shot holding down the button the whole time. You really got to think about what you're doing for the stringer. You need to think about how long you're going to charge it for. So, just in case people don't know, the different modes of shooting the tri-stringer, it is, if you're on the ground, you're going to be shooting a horizontal line. If you jump and release, it will always be a vertical line. So that's how you control those two things. And depending on how long you hold the button down, that's how wide or narrow your cone of fire is. So if you just tap it, you're going to get a short range horizontal cone of fire. But if you hold it down, it's going to go Yeah.
And if you hold it down all the way, then you get a little rocket guy. So when you shoot your shot, there's a second that passes, and then it goes, boosh. And it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. And you can shoot
It has
far.
a lot to it.
You can shoot far with it. Yeah.
You can shoot far with that.
Yeah.
Maybe not as far as, like, you know, a charger weapon. Like, you're not going to be sniping players across the map with it. But I really like what it brings, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's very nuanced, and I like that. And that the level we played gave a very good idea behind that, with all these different setups for you to take out enemies. Like, we were talking about the ones with the shields in front of them, but there were all these other ones of, like, enemies on boxes or enemies between pillars. And there's the perfect layout where if you go to the right position, theoretically, you could take out all three with one hit.
Right.
And it's really fascinating how this weapon is in the same game as some of these other ones, like the rollers, for example, or like just the splatter shot. Like, it's such a different nuance, and it has me very interested in this weapon style in general. Like, I look forward to seeing other tri-stringers, or other stringers, I guess they would be. This is just the tri-stringer.
Yeah.
Will there be ones with completely different range, or other different, like, parts of the kit? Like, I think they could be pretty neat, and I look forward to trying more of it.
There's gonna be like a nasty sniper one that's gonna be so that you like charge forever, you know? That's gonna be really cool. But
oh yeah, you're gonna get one with the scope for no reason.
Yes.
Where it's not gonna make sense.
Right. It's yeah, I also really like the stringer as a weapon type too. I was so surprised when I first picked it up, the just tapping of the button, how effective it is at just getting ink directly in front of you to be able to move forward and things like that. And competitively, I know kind of like a hot button issue with Splatoon 3 is there enough new? What's the newness to it? Same game, don't want to play it, whatever. I don't personally subscribe to that, but I do think that in addition to this weapon being new, in addition to there being a new way to interface and have texture with the game through this weapon, it's also the game, you know, it's a competitive game and it'll push back. You have to learn how to deal with people that are using this weapon. And especially since it is something that can be used close and long range. I think when you see that on the enemy team, this has happened to all of us. You go into a Splatoon match and you realize that just through the magic of matchmaking, everybody on the enemy team is using rollers. And that affects how you play. You know what I mean? And I think if you see stringers on the opposing team, that is a layer of texture that is different from anything you would have experienced in Splatoon 2. Yeah, and I think having hands-on, it really like showed me how big that effect might end up being. And I will say it also, you know, I like to make this comparison where in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I think the DLC characters that came later down the line had all these mechanics and interesting things you could do with them and like bars and all this stuff that the veterans didn't have. And I get that same energy from Splatoon where it's like not only are these two new weapons that we got to try out there's a little more to them than your splatter shot. I think what it does is it signposts the future of this game. And for a game that is more or less a service game, it says something to me about the kind of weapons that we will be getting in the future. And I think it's exciting. I think it's cool because this is a great weapon. I really like the Splatana as well. And to have this kind of exciting promise of the future. Like, no, the Splatoon team, they still have creative ideas. They still have cool things that you've never seen before. You know, when I pay $60, it's not just for day one, Tris. It's for day 100. And I can't wait for the ride. I have more confidence in the ride than ever.
And we've only talked about the story and the one weapon so far.
Let's talk about Salmon Run. Yeah. Salmon Run, Tris. Well, oh, please.
Before we even get into Salmon Run, we mentioned the Splatana.
Yeah.
I think our first time using it was in Salmon Run.
Yeah.
Or at least for me it was. So why don't we just take a moment to talk about that weapon really quick too?
Yeah, Tris, Splatana. Hard to use.
Hard to use.
Hard to use.
Something satisfying about it, I gotta say. Like, it has a lot more range than I expected it to when like flinging ink out.
Yes.
Like I really thought this was just gonna be like your close-up weapon, like when you and I were like in our predictions discussion for the Direct, joking about like we're gonna get like gauntlets with like sponges on them for just like punching out ink. We got a melee weapon.
Yes.
And it excels as a melee weapon for sure. Using it in Salmon Run, pretty much getting up close to any of the enemies you're taking them out pretty quickly, honestly. But
Tris, you made that flick comment, that flick that you said.
Yeah.
You said that, and I was like, oh my god, that's exactly what it is. It's literally that. It goes so much further than you think, when like way further than the paintbrushes and stuff. When you flick, and it was such like a specific like bead of ink. It was not what I expected. I agree. But it was cool. Please.
I'm excited to actually try more of this one though.
Yes.
Like I'm not really a fan of the rollers. I prefer the things that actually give me more range and that I can actually feel like I have a bit more control over, like when I use it, as opposed to the roller where it's kind of, you know, it feels like you're always doing something with it. But I really like the Splatana, and I like how you can, like, if you run up, or I guess swim up, like behind an enemy and just one swipe them, they're gone.
They're dead. Yeah, they're definitely dead.
They're gone.
Yeah. It's super different from those little paintbrushes. Yeah, really cool. And while we're on the, I guess we'll never talk about Salmon Run. While we're on the subject of new weapons, I think we've seen in the trailers, not too much new to talk about. Some of the new supers, some of the new sub weapons, but the one, Tris, the one that has captured my heart, that I will be looking for in every little, when I get a weapon, I gotta make sure it's got this as the super, is riding on the shark, going forward and exploding. That little shark floaty, because that was the most fun thing I've ever done in my life.
The reef slider is so good.
So
like,
good.
Like just riding that straight into enemy territory and blowing it up. There's like that you have to see that coming to react to it. Because if you don't, it's like in and done in like a second.
Yeah.
It's satisfying too to be riding on that and take out the enemy team with it.
Yeah.
Like we got to do that in Turf War, but in general, the reef sliders are very fun special.
I made enemies with that reef slider, Tris. I made enemies over at Nintendo. They've got a target on my back. I swear to God. But yeah, I never hit me. I was like, man, the ability to move so fast in Splatoon, just forward, to just go whoosh and like get a bunch of people, so satisfying. And I mean, who doesn't want to be on that shark floaty? It's so fun.
Yeah, really.
So cool.
We got to try a few of them too.
Yeah.
Like other than the reef slider. Did you get to try the crab tank at all? Because I kind of like it.
I was not good with it, Tris. I was not good.
No, I'm not very good with it.
Okay.
But I definitely like the idea behind it.
Yeah, me too.
I think it was one of the early ones that we saw, so I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So we've known about it for a while, but it was nice to actually get a hands-on try with it.
It felt like being in Overwatch for a second. It felt like being an Overwatch character. You know what I mean? You have like your two
yeah. You're literally on a tank. Yeah. And
you have the normal ink fire, and you have kind of like a missile fire that you can do when you're in the tank. And it reminded me of being. I think there's like a hamster in Overwatch that like is in a big ball. It reminded me of that.
Another one that I got to try, was not good with it. Was figuring a while trying to figure out how to use the zip caster.
Oh no, Tris.
The zip caster, you're jumping around like Spider-Man, or just kind of like immediately jumping in different areas. That was kind of tough, honestly, to actually use it successfully. My first attempt at using it resulted in someone like, oh, they're on the wall, got him.
Yep.
And nope. And I thought maybe like at the very end it was gonna be like a nice big burst, like when I land back down where I started. Nothing that really affected the opponents that much, gotta say.
That will be a great ability when we know the maps better, know the game better, and can make better use of like positioning. When you're playing a demo, checking out maps for the first time, trying to figure everything out, it would definitely. I totally had the same experience where I was like, oh, I'm just swinging into a.
Where do I go?
right into the middle of the action, and then getting creamed immediately. Yeah, no, I hear you. But I see the future of it. I get it.
Yeah. It strikes me as something that like in better play, it'll be really good at like sneaking behind enemy lines with, because they're not gonna be able to catch up to you unless they see you coming.
Tris, end of match when the countdown's going to get a bunch of turf on the enemy team. That's how I want to use it. I want to sneak back there, because there's always areas in Splatoon that you like can't climb up because they don't want you like going that far on the enemy side. You know what I mean?
You can do it,
but you
can do it with
that.
Yeah. You can do it with that. Yeah.
Cool.
So there's some good stuff to come out of that.
Yeah.
The other one that I got to try was what was it called? The Tacticooler. The Tacticooler. It was on the end zap, where like you put down the little energy drinks for your teammates to get.
Yeah.
That was interesting. That was interesting. I can't say I got to really use the benefits of it that much in this little demo that we got. But I look forward to the application of it. And Nintendo was like reminding us of if you're powered up from those energy drinks, if you get splatted, you'll respawn immediately. So you won't have to like wait to go respawn back into the map. It'll happen immediately. And I think that's interesting. And I think the buffs from it in general are pretty neat.
Yeah.
I'm very curious how well it'll be in application though, in like bigger battles and like when people are really trying to, bring their A game. Like I wonder if this is actually going to be something that people bring in to try to enhance their team, or if they're going to opt for other better specials.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like a straight up support ability. And it's funny to me that, especially in like a demo setting where we're not communicating, it takes a certain level of collaboration to be like, okay, everybody, I've got my special. Come get your good boy juice. And and not only are we coordinated enough for you to get your good boy juice, but we're also coordinated enough, but not good enough to not die. So you get the benefit of the good boy juice. It's weird. You got to be good enough to get it, but also bad enough to die to really get all of its benefits. So it's just kind of a funny thing. But I do think when it comes to like pro level stuff, when you have a group together, it will definitely be nice to have somebody on the team being like, okay, I'm rolling the, what's it actually called? I'm so sorry. I keep saying good boy juice. I don't.
The Tacticooler.
Tacticooler. Yeah, somebody will roll Tacticooler. Especially since I feel like, a 4-person team, do we all need offensive specials? I like the idea of having a more, support-focused one in the mix. Yeah, in the mix.
Yeah,
cool.
I definitely agree there. And I think it'll be interesting to see its application. I'm happy I got to try it, though. I'm happy I got to try it.
Triss, moving on to Salmon Run. Salmon Run. Apart from the obvious thing that I'm sure we'll talk about in a second, was it different at all?
It feels, other tthan feeling a little bit more fast-paced, it's basically the same with different maps.
Okay, are the maps even different? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are things that to the Salmon Run connoisseur, you're going to be like, okay, there are things that are here that are not necessarily improved, but different. And yeah. I think, they've upped the difficulty, they've upped the rewards, they've upped the, you can customize your Salmon Run outfit now, which is new. And for me, the big thing that actually made like a palpable difference was, of course, now we have the ability to throw our eggs into the basket in the middle where we're trying to collect them. And it was funny because I know I said this to you at the event, but it was like everybody at Nintendo was like, guys, but that's a big risk reward because you're gonna lose a lot of ink if you throw that egg. And I remember doing it the first time, seeing how much ink I lost, and being like, I'm doing this every time. I got that ink back in half a second.
If you just immediately go swim right afterwards, yeah, you get that back pretty quick.
You're swimming all the time anyway. So maybe when things
should be.
Right. Maybe when things get really intense at that like 333% intensity level, then you just won't have that option and you need to conserve every drop of ink. But from what we played, I just liked, from a gameplay perspective, that we eliminated a little bit of the, okay, now, especially in the early stages, okay, now I popped 3 salmon eggs, and I got 1. Okay, now I'm running back to the basket. Okay, now it's in, and now I'm going back to this. Okay, I got my salmon egg. Now I'm going back to the basket. Now I'm going. You know what? I remember that so well that it was nice to. I think what you said about the pace, it tuned it a little bit that made the experience more enjoyable.
Yeah. It feels a lot more refined.
Yeah.
It's faster paced, and I think it really allows you to work better with teammates, especially since now you can play at any time.
Hey, Triss, that's the killer feature. Play at any time.
Yeah, that actually is like a very big deal.
Oh,
I think that's special.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said about kind of like wanting to bolster the 3 pillars of Splatoon, it feels like this is something that we're treating seriously now. It's like a core part of the game. I expect to see it get altered over time. I expect to see new things introduced and stuff happen to it as the seasons go on. We don't know that for sure, but that's just an expectation. That's
well, we know there's some level of it with I think it's called the big runs, where they happen on like actual Splatoon maps.
Right.
So we know there's gonna be some sort of change with those.
That's a good point.
Which would be neat.
And as Splatoon maps come, in theory, big run maps on the new Splatoon maps, keeping everything fresh. But the really cool thing that happened, Tris, was the panic in the room when the event, when our game that we were doing, apparently there's a very small chance that like an event can happen, similar to kind of the events that happened in Splatoon 2. But we got
the motherships.
Yeah, but we got to see a brand new boss in Salmon Run, and this guy was a freak.
It looked like a Luigi's Mansion ghost.
Yes, it did look like that. So I'm sure we'll show it here. I'll find it and put it up.
Yes.
But like gigantic mouth. I think it was like spawning salmon enemies. Okay, yeah. And you know, we all know what to do when we see that big mouth. It's like, okay, we're throwing our grenades in it, obviously.
Yep.
I could not believe how many grenades that thing I was like, there must be
a while
I wonder,
for these things to go down, and they were spawning like 2 or 3 at a time. So it's not just your salmon, like the salmon enemies like coming up out of the sea. They're coming out of this thing's mouth at other random points as well. So like there's like the map we played, there's like a kind of spiral area that gives you the high ground. One was up there, sending the salmons coming down there.
Yeah.
So they had the high ground this time, and it created a very interesting dynamic. The panic in the room, as you mentioned, just getting to fight against these and see the difference that it brought, because it really did change how that wave played out.
Definitely.
Honestly.
Yeah. And I almost wondered if there was like a mechanic or something that we missed about the boss, because it took so long. It took so many grenades in the mouth that I was like, oh man, I wonder if they knew that's what we were gonna try to do, and maybe there's something about this boss that we didn't catch on. The other one that I want to shout out is there's a big boy salmon guy that comes out, and he's got like this machine, and it's like blasting stuff off. And I don't know if you got to do it, but my demo guy was like right on top of me, and he made sure that I did it. Is that you can destroy the salmon, and his machine will still be left there. And I had an egg, and I walked over and I put it in the machine, and it shot the egg towards the goal.
Wait, that's really clever.
That's
really cool.
Yeah, and it like nothing in the game called your attention to being able to do that. Like you had to walk up right next to the little machine, and then a prompt came up to like press A or something. And it did it.
Deposit egg or something like that. Yeah.
And the egg went flying, and I wasn't sure if it went in the basket or not. He said it would go close to it, but then when I got there was no egg. So maybe a teammate picked it up and put it in, but I don't know. But it was kind of sick.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. And it's nice to see that there's different applications like that you can use the salmon enemies, you know, to your advantage in that case.
Advanced.
And I think it proves there's an extra layer of depth to the Salmon Run. It's not just, oh, well, you can throw the eggs now, which already adds a lot, actually. Like, I have to admit, that already adds a lot, to be honest. But when they titled this initially, like back in, what was it, February, when they revealed it, like, Salmon Run, next wave. It's like, admittedly, back then, it was a little underwhelmed. I'm like, alright, Salmon Run again, cool, sure, maybe some new bosses, okay. Actually playing it now, though, it's definitely fun. Yeah. It's definitely, like, pretty neat. We played, what was it, we played, like, 10% difficulty and then, like, 25% difficulty. We barely made it through on the 25%. And they were just like, yeah, by the way, the difficulty goes all the way up to 333%, so have fun with that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, get the squad together. Yeah, it was definitely fun. I will say, though, if I'm, like, just taking a step back, I think a lot of the fun of it is just because I always loved Salmon Run. Like, I think your feelings about Salmon Run in Splatoon 2 are going to be very similar to how they are here. Especially since, like, we saw the bosses that you remember from Splatoon 2 Salmon Run. We saw the guy that's, like, the big steel mouth at the end of the chain. We saw the little, the pot, you know, that has the top, and you gotta wait for him to come up. And, it walks this fine line between, like, okay, now that Splatoon 3 Salmon Run is here, Splatoon 2 Salmon Run is irrelevant. It's
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I feel it's an iteration. I feel it's a true iteration. So if you like Salmon Run, on the other hand, I think now, especially since you can play it whenever you want, you're gonna have more reasons than ever to want to play it, less reasons to like get bored of it, and I think more rewards for playing it. So good things all around if you're a PvE Salmon Run fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on ye old Salmon Run?
I'm just glad that it's easy to queue up for now. Like, you don't have to go to a certain place. Like, we got to experience just in the lobby. You want to do your private matches, you want to do Salmon Run, you can just go ahead and do that. Very easy to jump into, and that just makes it, there's so much more incentive now, because I can imagine, like, just playing with a bunch of friends. You know, we done some turf wars, maybe we had a good day, maybe we had a bad day. It's like, all right, who wants to do some Salmon Runs? Like, yeah. And then rather than needing to all like disperse and then reform the group somewhere else, it's just click down on the menu to the next thing.
Totally.
It's much more simple now, and it's so much more like friendly user experience in that case.
Yeah, I agree. Saw a lot of that across the board.
Yes.
So, moving on to Turf War, the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of sweet Splatoon, Turf War. Speaking for myself, had so much fun. Oh my god. It feels so good to be playing Splatoon again. Such a jolly time. I kept like leaning over and saying things to you because I just like wasn't sure if it was my imagination or not. I thought the game, playing it, I thought it looked a little better. I thought I was getting feedback in the game that made it just like every little movement feel a little bit better. Just so people are aware, by the way, by default, motion controls were on in our demo, and that's the way to play, baby. Don't forget, turn those motion controls on. Swim around with your controller. And I think like I'm not an expert about like the quality of Splatoon 2's Wi-Fi connection. But so maybe that played a role too, because we obviously played LAN matches, and I thought there was like a real sense of it like felt good to play, and I'm curious to see if that will translate when we like get our hands on the Splatfest demo next
very soon.
Whenever you watch this, probably in a couple days. Yeah, but you kind of felt what I was feeling?
Yeah, I definitely felt what you were feeling, and in my case, it's hard for me to say if it's definitively like Splatoon 3 just feels that much better than 2, or if it's just I haven't really sat down and played 2 and like really enjoyed a Turf War in years at this point. So it might just be because it's a new, fresh, Splatoon fresh experience.
Right.
That it adds to the experience and makes it feel even better. I genuinely think that is part of it, but I do also think, in general, it felt played and controlled better. Yeah. Even if only subtly. It goes back to what I was saying of just like a better user experience. I think every little detail to it makes it better. Like even the spawning. The fact that you don't spawn on the little pad anymore. You have like these like little they look like coffee machines.
Fortnite,
where, like,
baby.
You launch, like you launch yourself to. They're in close proximity to each other, but you launch yourself down to spawn in, and even just that keeps it feeling faster. Like you do that, you want to keep moving immediately.
Yeah.
It adds to a faster paced experience, and it feels like it really benefits the gameplay.
And we were discussing we were discussing the it being a deterrent to spawn camping, perchance.
Yes.
Which was definitely a problem in Splatoon 2. Coming in on that platform, everybody knows where you are, and sure, you're protected for a little bit, but you don't really have a lot of room to maneuver. Here, you have a pretty wide cone in the starting area to choose where you're gonna go. Might help you out when you spawn in a little bit.
Yeah, as long as you don't have a team coordinating to all spawn camp you, it should help a lot.
And at that point, they deserve the win. They like congrats. I'll, log off. Okay.
No, but it felt very snappy. It felt very good.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got 3 rounds in a Turf War.
Yeah.
I don't remember the names of the maps that we played, but we got to play on 2 different maps.
Yeah.
Our first round, not so hot. Our first round, okay, could have gone better.
Speak for yourself, Tris. I was at the top of that leaderboard. I had kills like nobody's business. All right, I was doing
fair,
great work.
Fair. Round 2, close. Again,
Close.
like we got to play 3 rounds because we ended up tied 1-1 with the others that were there.
Yeah.
And shout out to Kevin from Go Nintendo, because oh my gosh, like our team was the two of us here, Tris and Jake, and Kevin from Go Nintendo, and then one of the Nintendo reps. And we won that third
rallied.
round. We rallied. We did great. We won that 3rd round. It was very close. Jake made an enemy out of someone at Nintendo.
He's watching, dude. He made an enemy. Listen, the man identified himself as a high-value target. He needed to be taken down. And when we did, we got the dub. So, no, that was, it was such a good experience. And I think just like little things that made it a little more fun is that at the end of every match, we got like little awards that popped up for each player. And it was like, hey, you sprayed the most ink on your team, or you got the most kills, or you spent like all this time swimming. I don't know. But like, you know, they came up with so many of them, and it felt like they were on every player's screen.
They were.
Yeah.
And it adds back to the user experience I keep talking about, because that's really where I'm noticing Splatoon 3 excels.
Yeah.
The user experience and the feedback.
Totally.
Like, in Splatoon 2 and earlier ones, you get that win screen where everyone's standing there together. It's like, yeah, we all did it. And then you see like, oh, on my stats, I did nothing for the team comparatively. Ooh. Or you did all the work, either one. But in this case, you have each Inkling or Octoling like coming in on screen one at a time, doing their fun animation, their little like tags showing up that they customize themselves, and the little medal showing up for like how well you did in that round. Like, it's very rewarding, and it's just so much nicer.
Yeah, in between matches, being in the little practice arena, seeing the holograms of everybody else, like you don't stop playing. You're not like staring at a loading screen, staring at like a really, because in Splatoon 2 there is a lot of like, all right, you're in that digital lobby, and here it's so much more like, no, you're constantly in the game. Oh, in between matches, you want to switch out your weapon? That's no problem. That's you want to switch. You want to switch out your whole loadout? Please do it. And then when everybody hits ready, we go in, and it was cool.
I'm hoping that's not just because it was in a private lobby though. Right. Like, I'm hoping that when you actually queue up for the online turf wars, you get the same amount of options. Yeah, I think that would be much nicer if we're able to. But
definitely,
we'll have to see on that one.
Yeah, it felt like a more robust online focused experience, like a true modern online focused game. Yeah, it really good stuff there. Good stuff. And I think we're not talking too much about like the moment to moment of turf war, because it kind of is what people are familiar with. And I think there are certain elements that will always stand the test of time with this franchise. And I think at the end of a match, pulling up, seeing that top-down view, trying to, before they say who wins, trying to judge for yourself, like, ooh, okay, I think we got it. Like, that is just, that's a killer experience. That's just a great idea, and it works here just as well as it's always worked. We haven't discussed the 2 advanced mechanics, though.
That's right.
Yeah, you're so much better with the proper names than I am. Please.
So we've got the squid roll, which is like the sort of like jumping backwards really quick to almost get like a parry in, and like super armor and kind of move quicker as you dodge backwards. And the squid surge, which is like this kind of nice fast way to shoot up a wall. Yeah.
And we kind of had this discussion where it was hard for us to find the utility, find when to use these moves, implement it in our current gameplay styles. And I think
especially in the middle of Turf War. Yeah. Especially in the middle of Turf War.
And I think talking to Nintendo about it actually clarified a couple of things for me. First, with the squid roll, the one where you dodge backwards and you have some like don't like quote me on this, but like invincibility frames. You have some armor, you know?
Super armor, as they put it, but
I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. It's like a perfect dodge, so I can kind of like stay in the fight, get some armor, do some damage. And I think what it is maybe more is the ability to retreat, is the ability to get out of a sticky situation and say, okay, I'm gonna actually regroup, not die, stay in the game, and then come back, use my squid roll to get out safely, which is why it's tied to moving backwards and jumping.
Yep.
I get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get it before. Now I get it. Now I get it.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Gosh. And then the squid surge. The idea being you're on the wall, you hold down, I think the B button.
I think so.
Okay. And you glow. It kind of takes a while. And you glow, and then you kind of jump, not as high as either one of us were expecting, but like kind of high up. And I think the interesting thing that was told to us about that is the ability for augments in your gear. Because the second they said that, we both were like, oh. Like,
yep.
Changing
like,
how...
That's why it's not going as high as we want it to, or as we expect it to.
Yeah,
because that ability can be augmented with your gear.
Even charging it faster, I was like, oh, that would go a long way. Shortening that charge time and then getting a little bit higher. But being able to get the higher ground, have that, be able to shoot down at your opponent for an easier kill. It makes sense. It was harder for us to kind of like get our hands on that in the short demo period, but two cool additions to show that like though Splatfest is almost an instant classic and it's never going to be changed so much, there is an iteration here to give it some more texture, depth, tune it for a better gameplay experience, and I think we both see that to be true.
Yeah, definitely. I think these are they're definitely helpful techniques that, while in the short time we had with it, we didn't get to really grasp the full utility of them. I definitely see them being used well in higher level play by players that really know what they're doing more, and people that are able to take the time to better understand the smaller complexities behind everything you can do in the game. Totally.
Tris, between Hero Mode, Salmon Run, and oh my God, Turf Wars. So many terms. When did you have the most fun?
I would definitely say the Turf War, because working together with you and Kevin trying to overcome the other team was very satisfying. And it was really fun seeing it all come together as, you know, we started covering each other and like helping out. Salmon Run was also very good, though, I gotta say. Like, I actually enjoyed Salmon Run more this time around than I did in Splatoon 2 originally.
Me too.
And it gives me hope that that'll continue for the actual game. But the Turf Wars really were like the highlight, which of course that really is the main highlight of Splatoon.
I think there was an element with Salmon Run, since you couldn't play it all the time before, that like as a human being you just like wouldn't allow yourself to get super attached to it. You know what I mean? It's like oh, we're not like in a committed relationship, so I can't like let myself get there. You know?
It's like, okay, Salmon Run's up now, but do I feel like playing it now is the question.
Dude, awful.
It's like, oh, you know, but the things I really want to do in rank are in rotation right now, so I guess I'll do that instead. You know? But now it's available anytime, so you can do it anytime with a group of friends, and I think that'll add to that. But no, the Turf Wars definitely were the highlight for me during this event, because I think we both had a lot of fun with those, and I think coming out on top between the two groups was a pleasant surprise that we worked hard for, and it paid off.
And I think to say something to the crowd that's saying not enough new, something that I've been thinking about in this game is you know, I love fighting games. I'm a huge fighting game fan, and like Tris, right now I'm playing Multiverses, and I just can't stop playing as Superman. And I think that's something that we do sometimes. We get attached to what we like and we stay there. And I wonder how many people that played Splatoon 2 that are saying, "Oh, not enough new here." How much did you really play with like every weapon? How much did you really like go online and give them all? You know, because I think there's more that the average person maybe didn't. I think this is a great opportunity to go in, try some of those weapons you didn't try before, because maybe they have new supers, maybe they have new other like balance changes to them that will make you appreciate them more. I know I even said to you when we were playing, using like the standard dualies, I think I was firing them for like 4 seconds, and I leaned over and I go, "Yo, I think these got buffed." And I immediately I was like, "Whoa, there's something good about this." Yeah, so I think that there is Splatoon 3 is an invitation to the next however long that they are going to support this game. And I think my biggest takeaway from this preview is that the bones, the structure of the pillars of Splatoon, they look better than they've ever looked, and I believe in the promise of the future more than I do a lot of games, especially since, you know, so many games these days are trying to play that service game. I think there's so much here to be enthusiastic about and to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think from everything we know about it right now, there's a much more positive feeling towards the future of this.
Yeah.
Rather than just before, oh, yeah, okay, it'll get some updates, maybe a map, maybe a weapon. We know there's a big DLC coming, like the auto expansion for 2 for this.
Right.
But we know in advance this time, rather than, a year after release it gets announced kind of thing.
That's a good point. We do already know that. That's interesting. As a choice, that's interesting. But, whatever.
It adds to what you were talking about with, the longevity of this game, the life of this game.
It's part of the promise.
Like it's really going to be there. Yeah, it's part of the promise of the future of this. And I think that's important here.
Yeah, totally. Tris, you and I, we're both excited for Splatoon. I know when the Splatfest rolls around, that test, now by the time people are watching this video, it is coming up. I think
very soon.
Obviously, Big Man is my big man, and I can't wait to support Team Scissors. But is there anything else, Splatoon 3? We had so much to talk about that we did not cover. I don't want to roll over anything. Is there anything? Is there anything else that you want to get off the top of your dome here?
I will address this here. We're already gonna have this up in like our details video, so you'll find other videos going over this too. In our talk with Nintendo, we decided to ask, because everyone's been covering this in the last week. Everyone's been asking about, with Deep Cut specifically, Shiver, and we had a whole report about this. And I'm sure many of you are going to sound off positively or negatively in the comments based on anything I'm about to say. So, sure, that's unavoidable. Go ahead, I guess. We asked Nintendo about Shiver's gender because, any sort of pronouns, because everyone's been reporting this. Any version of the localization hasn't actually specified at all. And as we and others reported, it was looking like Shiver might be non-binary, maybe not have specific pronouns to go by, or they, them. We know Nintendo was never gonna go advertise, yes, we have for a first time for us, we have a big non-binary character. Nintendo was never gonna do that. It was always gonna be a quiet thing. But we asked about it, and we were told that we simply just haven't been shown the material that proves and says in-game, with context, that Shiver is indeed female, goes by she, her.
Yeah.
And
so
I know that might be disappointing to many that were hoping, we're getting some, gender inclusivity and a bunch of new representation with this game. But, when we asked about it, they did remind us that the player customization doesn't make you pick something like that. It's different styles. You can go as all out on customization as you want there. And I think that's okay. I was a little disappointed to learn that, Shiver is not actually the gender inclusive representation that people were hoping for. But I think the player characters being whatever the players want them to be is what's more important there. And I'm happy that's still the case there. But I did want to address that in here to actually give my thoughts on that, because it is a little disappointing to not quite get the representation that people are hoping for with it. But I'm glad we have the confirmation ahead of time, rather than waiting for the game to come out and everybody waiting to find the confirmation.
Yeah. So, confirmation, Shiver is female identifying, and don't want to, as a cis man, I'm not trying to have a lot of I'm just not trying to have a lot of commentary about this, but something
that's okay.
Yeah, but something I do want to shout out is just Nintendo in general, with even just having cool, different shaped, different style, having a female identifying main character like this is, I think, for Nintendo, something in it of itself. So shout out to our leading ladies. We still love Shiver, you know what I mean? Not as much as Big Man, but still.
Oh, Big Man's still up there as the best one.
I'm gonna leak something for people that have made it to the end of this preview. What I'm gonna leak is Andre just realized it's Big Man because it's Big Manta. Literally weeks after Big Man is revealed, Andre's going, "Oh my god, it's because he's a manta ray." So There's your leak. Sorry, dude. Oh my God. All right. So I was like, yeah, we should have just called him Big Boy. You know. Yeah. Anyways. So I think that's gonna do it for our Splatoon 3 preview discussion. I think at the time or near the time of this video going up, we should have all sorts of other coverage up on the channel, so please be sure, click around, go to the profile, check those things out. I know Tris is doing a bunch of videos. I'm doing a lot of shorts, so if you're fiending for like a TikTok, I have a TikTok slash GameXplain, you know what I'm saying? And we're gonna have all sorts of fun and interesting things happening there. And I think we're also really looking forward to streaming the Splatfest demo, having a little more extended time with that game. And before the Splatfest officially starts, I think a couple days before, you can download that demo, get into the practice modes, try out some weapons, we think. That's what it seems to be, at least. Yeah, so definitely, like, I'm sure we'll be covering all that stuff, checking it out, streaming it, whatever it is. But thank you so much for hanging out with us for so long in this preview discussion. We appreciate it, and this is just what you gotta do when you're so hyped on Splatoon 3, okay? The rise of the mammalians, let's go! So that's gonna do it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.